Michael Hunter did this interview here where he talks about the amateur fight he had with Tyson Fury back in the days. They were both only about 18 or 19 years old at the time, and it was the main event of a long-running tradition, at least in the UK, of these England versus US international amateur competitions. Michael Hunter said that James DeGale was there. He said Billy Joe Saunders was there, and he also said Carl Frampton was there. Now, he says it was a clean sweep, or almost a clean sweep for the USA. That up until the main event, they'd won virtually every bout. But if you look at the BoxRec page for this event, it shows that the English had actually won more fights than the Americans. The English had won 3 fights, the Americans had won 2. In any event, Michael Hunter claims that he basically dominated Tyson Fury in the main event, beat him up, had him out on his feet, but in order to salvage the event for Team England, he thinks the judges basically jobbed him. They gave Tyson Fury the decision. This was a 4-round fight, each round 2 minutes in length. And this show took place in London. Now, after the fight, Michael Hunter says that he tried to get a rematch with Tyson Fury, I think the next week or a couple weeks later, and Fury either outright refused or he initially agreed and then later pulled out with an injury. And he says this is what Tyson Fury's been doing for years, ever since he was an amateur, messing around, pretending he's going to fight, then pulling out, all this type of stuff. Now, this amateur fight doesn't really mean much to me because, again, they were 18 years old at the time. They were just a pair of kids. Tyson Fury had lost to David Price as an amateur as well. So, he wasn't the same Fury back then, obviously, that he is now. Alexander Usyk, for example, lost to Sean Porter in the amateurs when he was a very young man. So, as I say, you don't read too much into that. It's not until fighters reach the real elite level of amateur competition that I would read anything into their losses in terms of the guy who they lost to having some type of psychological edge over them if they were to meet in the pro ranks. And I'm not saying that would be the case necessarily. I'm saying it would make it more probable, or possible at least. But more than anything, this amateur fight that Michael Hunter had with Tyson Fury, and it's an interesting interview, by the way. Go watch the interview. It shows how seasoned Michael Hunter is, amateur and pro. He fought Andy Ruiz in the amateurs as well, got a win over him. Also beat Oscar Rivas, fought Artur Beterbiev, so on and so forth. And of course, as a pro, he fought Alexander Usyk in a cruiserweight title bout. Gave Usyk one of his toughest fights to date, certainly one of his trickiest fights, if you don't want to call it tough. He had plenty of success in the first half of that bout, did Michael Hunter. And when he moved up to heavyweight, he took out Martin Bakole in 10 rounds back in 2018, beat Sergey Kuzmin, took his unbeaten record with a 12-round UD, had that draw with Povetkin, and after that, he's been in the wilderness. He made what I think was a poor decision to turn down, to duck the Filip Hrgović fight, and he's been fighting in obscurity ever since. His last fight was a 10-round UD over Cassius Chaney. That fight originally was going to be for, I think, the WBA regular belt, but somehow that got pulled, as in the belt itself. Manuel Charr bizarrely still has that belt. And so at 36 years of age, there's the very real possibility that Michael Hunter is already a wasted talent, that he forfeited his best years by trying to grab some fast money off Triller rather than taking the Filip Hrgović fight. I predicted long ago, many years ago, longtime subscribers will confirm this in the comments, I predicted that Alexander Usyk would knock over, would take down at least one of the top 3 heavyweights. At the time, that was Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Deontay Wilder. I predicted he was going to beat at least one of them. But I also predicted that Michael Hunter would cause at least one major upset as well. And obviously he upset Martin Bakole, but that was at a time when Martin Bakole wasn't really well known. So I was talking about post-Bakole. But at this stage of the game, although I was right about Usyk, my prediction about Hunter looks increasingly unlikely. And it's not just because of his age. It's not just because of his promotional situation, but also because of his form. We haven't seen the Michael Hunter who beat Martin Bakole for many, many years, or the guy who beat Sergey Kuzmin, or even the guy who had the draw with Alexander Povetkin. We haven't seen him on that kind of form for literally 5 years, since 2019. In his head, he might still think he can produce that form, but in many instances, a fighter's ego can deceive them. Their ego and their physical body are on 2 different pages completely. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. And before I go, make sure you check out my Joshua Dubois film study on my Patreon page. It's about 1 hour and 20 minutes long. I analyze actual video footage of several of their fights and do a technical breakdown of their respective strengths and weaknesses and discuss tactics. If you want to access this video along with hundreds of hours worth of other exclusive boxing content, as well as our members chat, just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called the Boxing Brotherhood. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store. All the links are in the description box below.